orientation for me is pretty much done. I gotta do some videos tonight where you watch more videos and take tests until you make 100%, and then the video disappears and move to the next one, and so on and so forth. And that's why I gotta take them over and over and over again until I get to the 100% mark. And you can't fast forward through the videos, so you have to watch the whole thing over and over and over until you get it. And that's what I'm gonna be doing tonight. But in exchange for that and not having to watch videos at orientation, they instead get you a hotel room, which I think the fleet owner pays for half of it, and the company pays for the other half. I don't know. But I'm at Hampton Inn Suites. I'm gonna sit back and play these stupid videos and do that. I'm starting to have a headache, I have a cold now coming on, I think, because there was a truck driver that came in today as part of a team. He should have stayed home. He should have went to the next week's orientation. He even said so himself. He's just sitting there coughing away. And I mean, he was doing his best job he could to try to cover his mouth by going like this every time he coughed and stuff like that. But I mean, it was such a small room. 6 of us in that room, and you could tell the other 5 of us were trying to stay as far away from him as he could. And then, of course, the classic truck driver, he's got to help himself to the food first before everybody else. And by the end of it, a couple hours later, now I have a headache coming on, and I can feel the sensitivity in my eyes and my sinuses, and so the cold, whatever cold he had, is coming probably. I don't want to speak it into being on myself, but that's what you get, you know. Other than that, orientation went pretty fast because of that. I mean, he kept coughing, and Gary, the guy who was leading orientation, pretty much every time the truck driver coughed, he was like skipping through the the overhead because you don't want to be there in that room with that guy any more than us. So that's the one good thing about it, is it was pretty fast. There's differences I can tell already between Roadrunner and Bolt. Some things I do like, some things I don't like. Bolt had an app called Selectus that you use right there on your phone, and that tells you when you're at the shipper and at the receiver and all that stuff. And then Roadrunner has the old-fashioned Qualcomm system until they switch over someday. And it's about the same thing, except for it's a box that's wired into the van that you have to tell the shipper and receiver where you're at and all that. I can get used to it. It's not a big deal. It's just a little annoying because I could go to the shipper with the phone in hand and do what I needed while I was waiting, you know, to get a hold of whoever at the shipper last time around. But this time around I won't be able to do that. I have to check in right at the gate on that stupid little machine and check out on that stupid little machine, because that machine tells dispatch directly if you have the load or not. And the funny part is she said, technically speaking, if you miss one step or another, you know, forget to leave the shipper and tell the machine that you're leaving, it tracks you anyway, so the dispatch already knows you're leaving anyway. So to me, it's kind of pointless to, outside of telling it that you picked up a load or dropped it off, it's kind of pointless to have to say that you're at the shipper, that you left the shipper, that you're at the receiver, and then you left the receiver, and then another 5th time around to scan your paperwork to put it in. And then they have a handwritten cover sheet that you got to do with each bill of lading that you have to scan in and to send in to them, and you have to do it pretty much after each load so you can get paid eventually. And then on top of that, you have to keep the paperwork for this week through next week, and then mail it in. So basically, when I get going here, I'll have to separate this week's paperwork from last week's paperwork that I still have to keep, and then send everything in and know which week was what paperwork. Because if they have problems with the load after the fact and they have to call you back and you want you paid on that paycheck, that load, whatever they're trying to do with, and you already mailed it in, you're going to just have to wait till they get it in the mail, and then they can put it on whatever check that was. So if you want to get paid that, and my fleet owner would want us to get paid that, I'm going to have to keep the paperwork back a little bit, which, that's okay. I'm looking into doing Inuit QuickBooks Self-Employed app this time around, where you take pictures of all your receipts, so I can hopefully do better at the receipts. I already have like 8 receipts already, and it's not even a day and a half. That part of the life isn't the greatest, but the freedom of being self-employed kind of is. Other than that, Roadrunner is pretty much the same as Bolt. They will call me to get the load, and then you accept or not, and then if you tell them on the phone that you accept it, then you have to be at your van, pretty much, because the little box, the Qualcomm box, has to be turned on, which turns on the ignition of the van, so that dispatch can send it to that. Whereas back when I worked for Bolt Express, they would just send you it by email, which, you know, depending, I mean, these days, if you have service, you can just about everywhere but Kentucky was the only time I ever had problems. But it was almost faster and easier to do it off of the email, except for I could see the Qualcomm coming in handy in places like way up in the hills of Kentucky or way over there in Pennsylvania and stuff. You know, so the thing that I did notice is they don't. Roadrunner makes it a point not to go to Florida. They do go to Texas a hell of a lot, though. They said from Michigan to Texas, nice long runs. That'll be nice. And then they got pretty much the triangle from Michigan to Illinois, out to Iowa, down to Texas, back over to like South Carolina, North Carolina, and then back up to Michigan. Kind of that triangle, that service area that they work in. But they don't send very many people up through New York or any of the New England states, which I kind of like that idea, so I don't have to go through that whole deal with the speeding ticket again. And then she kind of told me, especially me, I won't be going through New York. So that's pretty much the biggest thing that I found a difference of. The phone apps for both Express are probably a little bit easier, faster to use than this Qualcomm box, but I can get used to it. It won't be no big deal. And then hook a wireless scanner, or not wireless, but a corded scanner right to the Qualcomm box and scan your paperwork in after each load, which when that worked for Bolt, you just took a picture of it. I'm not sure which one of the two would be better idea. I mean, maybe the Qualcomm works fast enough and better enough that it would be better to just do it with that system or not. I tried that out today, playing around with the example paperwork as you log in and everything and get all used to it. But it's okay. In terms of the van, I have a much better van set up to live in now with the generator and the microwave and all of that. It's just missing a fridge versus back in the day in Bolt Express driving the cargo van and the high top van. Those two were just basically a bare bones van for the most part. They didn't even hardly insulate much of it. In terms of driver comfort, wasn't the greatest. This one it's designed where you could fold the bed up behind the seats and then you could just barely get all three skids in there. That's okay, but later on down the line, I might raise that up using straps on the bed, raise it up out of my way so I can go back and forth between the front cab area and the back of the van, because I already, within a day, don't really like jumping over my bed to get back and forth behind the seats. That's kind of annoying as hell. So the top might, I wouldn't mind jumping over the little bit of a battery box that's still installed there as part of the setup. All I would take was take the plywood off and put it up on hinges, and then I'd have to jump over the battery box that goes between the seats. That's okay. I'd rather kneel down and then do that with this bed lifted up higher out of the way. And then with the bed lifted up higher, you never have to really move it. So I might buy some 4 of those expensive $50 straps down the line when I get some money rolling, and strap the bed up higher, possibly. Other than that, I didn't really see, everything. I stayed nice and warm in it last night, and I had the choice of either running the van, which I idled the van for a little bit just to get the van used to working again for a little bit, probably like an hour. Then I ran the generator for on and off throughout the night. So I wish there was a remote start for the generator, or even a remote start for the van. That'd be nice if you just push a button either way and start it to do the heat. That would be nice, because the generator starts right up, but you have to get out of the van, go out in the back, and plug it in from the little cord that goes from the generator into the shore power lead on the van. That's not hard to do, and then just crank it. But it's not much of a cranking to get the generator to go. You just hit the on button and then crank it, and voila, starts right up. Checked the oil and everything in it the other day, and it has a full tank of gas. Lucked out on that one, but the van itself didn't have gas. I had to get money for the fleet owner the other day to do that, because it's supposed to start out with a full tank of gas. And I don't have a fridge, because the last 2 times he put fridges in there, when they get mad at you, they take the $800 fridge. So he's going to leave that as more of a driver's thing to do now. But I scratched it off on the contract that I signed today between me and him. It listed all the items that's in the van, and it had a fridge on there and some other stuff. Like, it didn't have the straps. I had to go buy the straps that he reimbursed me for, and I made sure to make notes of all that on there, on the contract itself, of what was there and what wasn't there. It's mostly just the fridge, and then there was 2 load bars that click into those E-tracks when there should be 4, apparently, according to the contract. So I made sure to scratch that out and put 2. That way, down the line, I mean, I think it's going to work out with this guy, don't get me wrong, but, down the line, if something ever happened, I've already set myself up to say, no, hey, see, I signed this contract as such, that on day 1 of it, that I found this and that, and this condition or that condition. Covered my butt for later, so it shows on history. And then I took a copy of it. He's got a copy of it, and Roadrunner has a copy of it. So I better get to doing the rest of my video test things, little annoying test deals. Either way, I got paid for like all day. While I sit here in the hotel instead of a 2-day deal. The tractor trailer people, not the straight trucks, but the tractor trailer people have to go back tomorrow to do markers on their trucks and everything else. It's like a 2-day process for them. For the guys in the van, which I was the only one, and then there was a team that was a straight truck, and then there was a team that was tractor trailer, and one of the guys that's in the team that had the tractor trailer, he's the guy that came to the thing today with a cold, and I don't know how somebody has that bad of a cold and then still comes to work and doesn't care if it affects everybody else or what. I mean, he did care, but didn't care enough to stay away, you know. And the 5 of us were just uncomfortable all day long today because 4 of the 5 of us knew that, you know, there's a decent chance we're all gonna get a cold. So can't be helped. I'll have to get through a head cold. It just looked like he had like a head sinus cold and was coughing. I hope I don't get all the coughs that he was doing. I can already feel kind of the dry mouth, and you can hear it. And a head and the sinuses and stuff. Maybe it'll go away in like a day. I don't know. Hope it's not the coronavirus. Like a person on Facebook was already saying they're worried about being in the, you know, having a cold now. I was in the airport the other day for like, you know, those 4 days and never had one. So I don't know what the hell. But anyway, so that's the deal. I have him here in the hotel doing tests tonight. And then tomorrow around noon, she said I can call to go in service and see what I get from there. I'm looking forward to the longer miles. I talked to 3 or 4 other van drivers from Roadrunner, and they routinely get 800 miles or more in a shot in a load, so it would be nice to get one more of those loads that takes a day or two for 800 mile, you know, deals instead of these little teeny tiny 200-mile runs here or there. Because the thing about it is you ruin your day. Well, not ruin your day, but if you take 200-mile run and you're sitting someplace else and not getting reloaded. So, I don't feel very good. I hope I wake up in the morning. I went and stopped at Walmart and got the cheap version of Dayquil and NyQuil, and hopefully I'll be able to knock myself out here in a couple hours and get over this. I don't know. If I wasn't having to work, I'd just go give me a 5th of vodka. You know, because that's the one thing about alcohol. It would kill anything, but probably shouldn't do that right before drinking or before driving, right? So, no go on that one. But that's everything I can think to record for update. See how it goes when I get on the road. The batteries in the van there for a while had a little bit of a problem. Like last night, I could run my heater. There's an S-bar heater in there, but it will run fine with the generator on, or it'll run fine with the van on, but it won't run by itself. And then this morning, after idling, not idling, doing the generator on the back for half the night or whatever, the batteries are doing better, I guess, because the fan for the heater would stay on by itself, but the heating element would shut off. And then toward the end of it here, when I went back to check on it, because I left the generator running for a while when I was in class, because I tried to charge it back up, and I seen the heating element was working on the heater. Supposedly, I didn't try it very much because I was coming over here, so I didn't want to heat the van up and have like an element or something in there hot while somebody's not in it, you know, occupying it for a night. So I didn't mess with it too much tonight, but it looks like it's working. And the fast charger thing, it's got a little blinky light thing, is working more than it was. Hard to explain. It was used to, when it was first in there, it was like a solid green light. Now it's flashing all the time, and then changes over to solid, and then changes over to flashing. So I think it's doing better. Like it's working again, hopefully. But the van was sitting for about a month.